Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel. I am originally from Canada, but have been living for the past 34 years in Copenhagen, in Denmark, which is another story altogether. But I'm here to talk about survival. Survival after cancer. Survival after heart disease. And survival after HIV. I had an extremely lucky and happy life until 1985, when, at the encouragement of the local press here in Denmark, the gay, bisexual, drug addict community were all encouraged to be tested for the HIV virus. At the time it was called something else, HP1 and 2, I can't remember. It's that long ago. And I'm gay, which forms part of the reason that I'm here. And I thought that was a good idea because I thought it was helpful to know. And in the knowing, you could take action when action was called for. That is to say, when they came up with ideas, experiments, treatments, cures, then they would already know where you are and you would be safe. However, in 1985, when my friend and I went for a test, I was told within 10 days that I was HIV positive. And I remember the incident very well. It was June. It was the height of summer here in Denmark, in Copenhagen. And it was a gorgeous day. The sun was shining all over the place. And I came to the hospital to get my results in my lunch break, which coincidentally was just 2 blocks away from the hospital that was conducting the tests. And I remember at the time that my mother had straight after my mother had divorced my father, she got very active and she went back to school. She went to college, and she became very, very active. And at the same time, she dropped about 100 pounds. I mean, she was heavy to begin with, but she dropped a lot of weight very, very quickly. And she put it down to some bizarre diet. But at any rate, what happened was that she actually had developed diabetes. And she had a massive heart attack at bingo. I remember this well because she won $1,000 that night. And as she stood up to holler bingo, pooh, she went that way. And upon her arrival at the hospital, she was diagnosed with a massive coronary that required surgery. And she had a triple bypass operation that time. And that was very early on for triple bypasses. They were very serious. She very nearly died, but she survived. But she only survived in reality. The problem was she had already died in her mind, and she began dying from that day forward and continued to die until the day she died. She was 77 years old, by the way, so it was many, many years later. But the family was already being inundated with these daily messages about dying, I'm dying anyway, and blah, 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 blah. And I remember when the doctor was giving me the message, he didn't look at me. He sat perpendicular to me in a desk and stared at the wall, stared out at the wall there. And let's say I'm sitting here. He was staring over there. And he said, yeah, you're tested positive. He said nothing else. And I thought to myself, well, surely there's more information available. So I said, well, what does that mean? And this was 1985. And at the time, I suppose he told me what he knew. And that was, well, so far, no one has lived beyond 11 months. So you might want to think about getting your affairs in order. I didn't know where to look. He wasn't looking at me. I didn't know how to react. So unceremoniously, he said, next. Call in the next patient. I had to get up and leave the room. And I'm standing out in the hallway all by myself. I'm in a daze. I don't have a headache, but I'm not really focused on anything at all. Everything is spinning. The room, all the entire hallway is spinning around on me. And I thought, well, I'll go for a walk. So out I went, and I'm just walking and walking. I'm only 2 blocks away from my work, but I'm at the about halfway through my lunch. So I start walking around, and I remember coming past a square, very near to where I worked, where they were tearing down a very old and apparently no longer existing department store in 4 stories. And they were tearing it down, and they had, what do you call it? Walls constructed, wooden walls constructed around the site, and they were tearing it down. And in the corner, they had a huge sign that said, here, coming in October 1988 or 89, I don't remember which it was, is La Scala, the primary entertainment and shopping spot for modern Copenhagen. And there was a picture, an architect's drawing of the place. And I remember thinking at the time, as I'm looking at this, it's the first time I've seen it, wow, I won't ever get to see that. And right at that moment, I heard my mother's voice. I'm dying, please help me, take pity on me, help me. And I thought, wow, because it occurred to me that my mother was living in misery. She was living in pain and suffering because she was fearing death. And I thought to myself, well, okay, you know what? This is a gorgeous day. I'm not going to be my mother. I've got today. I feel fine. I'm not dying right now. The doctors say I've got 11 months. I'll use them. And so that's what I decided to do. I started taking my work less seriously and spending a great deal more time at home. Not just at home, but out and about, and basically just having fun. And at the time, let me think, was I drinking at the time? I was I was still drinking, but no, not to any excess. I had a full-time job. I really loved my job. I'm an accountant, by the way. However, I'm no longer practicing accountancy. But anyway, we'll get to that later. And I thought, my life is pretty good. I feel fine. I think I'm going to continue to feel fine. Well, after the initial shock and the initial trauma of relating this to my partner at the time, and basically because of that moment I had staring at that picture of an as yet unfinished plaza or entertainment center, I realized that I had already crossed, I'd crossed a barrier, and I decided that I was going to live now. And I've been doing that ever since, really. And it helped me a great deal in my developing traumas, or karma, I might add, because since I had been diagnosed as early as I was, as soon as the hospitals had any plan whatsoever, even experimental, I got a call. And I started being a guinea pig from day one. Well, I was subjected to all sorts of... I was lucky enough that the really bad ones, the dangerous ones, like the pig thing that they had going on, I can't even tell you what that was about. But luckily, I was already involved in another experimental situation, so I couldn't be involved in this particular pig thing trial. And at no point did I develop any serious illnesses. I had a few incidences of the minor unfortunate side effects of the medicines that they were giving me at the time, which were all experimental, and they were all just, pulling a rabbit out of the hat kind of a solution. And yet, I never really got really sick as a lot of my friends and very close associates did as well. And I spent the next, I don't know how many years, let me think, 11, 12 years, going to funerals at least once a week, and sometimes 2 and 3 times in the same week. It was getting to the point where everyone I knew was dying in some sort of order. And I remember thinking to myself, why am I still here, and why am I not getting sick? Why am I not getting pneumonia? Why am I not developing sarcoma? Why am I not dying? And I thought of that at funerals. I thought of that at funerals of people that were much younger than me, that were all brilliant people. They were artists and actors and singers and performers and Ordinary people, really. Okay. I just mean that my friends who were ordinary people were dropping away. And this made me feel very sad. But in 1991, my friend came to me, my partner came to me to announce that he had been diagnosed with full-blown AIDS, which at the time annoyed me a lot because he had refused, pardon me,